arbitration at the time. So I'm not even sure if that's the best way to start. But I did it because I had an interest, but I had zero experience in arbitration. I just had an interest, and that was what I wanted to do. So I went, I had that, came back, and I was determined to sort of find a job in that field, to join a law firm that would give me the right exposure in that field. So I joined Alukanu Body. I joined the dispute resolution team of A&O, and I was there for about 4 years. And that's basically where, I got all the skills, all the exposure. Luckily for me, I worked with partners who were already getting appointments, so I had opportunities to work as their secretary. So I had not just counsel experience, I also had experience working with the tribunal, which is great. And then it wasn't until after that that then I then started pursuing the certifications with CIAB in particular, the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators certifications. So that's essentially my journey. And if I think of what even triggered the interest at the very beginning, what made me even think of ADR, that'll be funny because throughout my time in school, when I was having my undergraduate degree, I was really focused on litigation. I wanted that's a practice of law that really intrigued me. And I'm not sure whether, again, for those of us who are Nigerians, whether I was with the court attachment or so, but just the experience with the courts just got me so, I guess, discouraged. I mean, just physically going into the courts in Nigeria and the heat, the sweat, just the discomfort of the place. And I thought, well, if I could have, and that's basically what, of course, arbitration and ADR and many other things. But my point is, it is as litigious as litigation. You're just having it in an environment that is not as, uncomfortable as the court. So that's really what triggered me. The fact that, oh yeah, I could go somewhere else, have my disputes in terms of litigious forum, but I won't be wearing a wig and gown, I won't be hot, and all. That's really what sparked my interest at the beginning. And of course, further down, and I realized there was more to arbitration than that, but that's what sparked the interest at the very onset.
Thank you so much, Fumi. Thank you so much. So Stanley, please, do you mind telling us how you started your journey in ADR?
Yes, thank you very much, Chidema, and thank you for having me, and thank you to the rest of my fellow panelists. Mine is actually quite conventional, but not very different from Fumi's own. During my time in university, I actually had general interest in dispute resolution, litigation generally. So back in the days, I participated in moot and mock trial competitions and brief writing competitions, all with the aim to be an astute litigator. I took an arbitration class then, but I didn't think that arbitration was a thing at the time. So when I started off my career at Templars, I actually started as a transactions lawyer because my mentors advised me to not to limit myself or overly focus on litigation when I haven't tried other areas. So I started out my career as a transactions lawyer, did a bit of finance, energy, and oil and gas before I went for a master's in the UK at Cambridge. It was at Cambridge that I realized that actually my love still lies in, and interest still lies in dispute resolution more broadly. And that was where I got exposed to arbitration. I attended a few conferences in London, and I realized that, oh, this is actually not very different from litigation, but slightly easier, if you may say. I'm more sophisticated than arbitration, than litigation. So my interest actually went to arbitration first before it expanded to other areas of ADR. So I went on to do a specialized master's at Harvard in arbitration and international law. And from there on, I did some internship programs in London and in the US, and then started working full-time in London as an ADR lawyer. And in the course of my practice, it has been a combination of commercial arbitration, investment treaty arbitration, but also commercial mediation as well. So in summary, I've always had interest in dispute resolution, and with time, I found that I could actually transfer the skills and the interest I had in general dispute resolution, specifically traditional litigation, to arbitration, commercial mediation, and other aspects of ADR.
Thank you very much, Stanley. Thank you so much. Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. Please, how did you start your career in ADR?
Thank you so much to the organizers for inviting me. And as everyone has said, I'm privileged to be in the company of Fumi and Stanley. And yeah, good morning. How did I start my journey in ADR? It appears, first of all, I'll distinguish myself from Stanley and Fumi. I might be the only one, except that I'm Kenyan, I might be the only one who's not set foot in the UK to train. I have done everything homegrown. So for those people who want to know, some of us started here and are still here, at least physically. Anyway, my journey is different because when I was in campus, and even now, universities in Kenya did not really have much, say, conversation or even any courses around arbitration or even just generally ADR. However, when we were in second year, I remember that day. That's the day my life, I think, kind of changed. The lecturer taught us generally an overview of alternative dispute resolution, but mostly the focus was mediation and negotiation. So it's basically that seed was planted in my head, and I continued with my campus. Then I didn't attend campus in Nairobi. Like I wasn't like in the Unilag. I was in another one somewhere in Ibadan. So yeah, when I came to Nairobi, I looked for the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, Kenya. And I was lucky that I had started working for a good firm when I was in campus, but still that firm had no practice in arbitration or ADR generally. But still my boss, since I was always in his ears telling him to pay for me the SIAB entry course, I did the mediation entry course. And then when I was in what you call the bar school, Kenya School of Law, that's when I started doing I decided to convert to arbitration because the courses were cheaper. I didn't have money, so I transferred to arbitration because the courses were cheaper. And then mine has been slightly longer, I would say. And there's been a huge financial aspect. I wouldn't want to lie to the participants that everyone has money to just do courses, because not all fingers are not the same size. Anyway, so after I got called to the bar in 2014, that's when I started making a bit of money. So I quickly moved to module 3, arbitration. I also did my mediation 40-hour training with Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. So yeah, I've trained generally with Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, and I've also done construction adjudication, but I'm not yet a fellow, still a member there in terms of, I've not done the last 2 papers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, currently now I'm doing my master's degree, Queen Mary University, London. My first master's degree was different. It wasn't arbitration, it was just diplomacy. Now is when I'm doing my arbitration LLM, but I've done enough, I'd say, certification courses, mostly SIAB. I've been accredited as a tutor. So my journey has been slightly longer, but what matters is now we are all here. I think that should give a background, yeah, as to how I got into ADR.
Thank you very much, Mercy. Thank you so much. So Stanley, back to you. You are a senior associate in the dispute resolution team in a top tier law firm, which just happens to be the largest law firm in Nigeria. Now I understand that you must be very, 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 very busy. So how do you balance your ADR practice with your litigation practice?
Thank you, Chimdema. I think there's a bit of difference since I returned. I've come to realize that elsewhere, like in the UK or maybe in the US or in certain other jurisdictions, maybe in South Africa, it's very easy for some law firms or most law firms to actually have a different ADR department or a different arbitration department. But in Nigeria, my experience has been that a lot of firms that have an ADR practice combine that ADR practice with litigation as well. But even in London, we're still encouraged, at least in the firm I used to work at, we were encouraged not just to focus on ADR, but also do a bit of litigation. Apart from the fact, then back to Nigeria, apart from the fact that there may not be a lot of arbitration cases or ADR cases more generally to keep people busy every single day. More importantly, like I hinted earlier, I've come to realize that certain skills you need as a litigation lawyer are actually very useful, in your ADR practice, because the things you do are not significantly different from one another. So being able to strike the balance, I think that, it's really 50-50, or maybe 60-40 in favor of ADR, but I'm still able to do commercial litigation cases. I'm still able to do arbitration cases, and I'm still able to do some commercial mediation matters as well. So it's not that difficult if you are in a firm where your dispute resolution department can combine both, like at Templars. But even if you are in a department where you can just focus on the ADR aspects of it without really doing much of litigation, it's still very key to still gain experience in litigation. I've mentioned the fact that the skills are transferable, but also in many aspects of ADR, you may still have to resort to the courts in one way or the other. So for example, in arbitration proceedings, you may still have to go to the court to set aside the award or to enforce the award or for appointment or what have you. Again, depending on the courts and all of that and the jurisdiction in question. But even in commercial mediation, you may have to still go to court to adopt the terms of settlement as a consent judgment and all of that. So I do think that there is advantage in having both, at least at an early stage. Then with time, you can begin to specialize solely in ADR. But back to your question, how I balance both, I've been able to balance both fairly easily because in the team I work at, the team I work in at Templars, we're able to combine both. So we do a bit of commercial litigation and also do ADR as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stanley. Mercy, the International Chamber of Commerce Young Arbitrators Forum has a very active network with such an extensive reach. And you happen to be the regional representative of not just Africa, but Middle East and Turkey. So what do you think, how is the ADR culture in these locations? The general acceptance, the usage, how is the ADR culture in these locations?
That question feels rather wide to me, so I'll try and cover it the way I have understood it. And I'd also like to clarify that I'm not the only regional representative. We have also a Nigerian, Laura Alakija. So we are, I think, 4 of us in Africa, Middle East, and Turkey. Anyway, what I'd say, having done ICCF and other young members organizations here, there has certainly been more interest in ADR generally, not just mediation. There's been more interest certainly. You can't compare it even in the last 5 years, as in Africa, people are moving. Like you can see right now, you have 100 people online. It would be hard for you 5 years to get 100 people on a whole morning to come and attend an ADR, whatever talk or conference, whichever it could have been. There is certainly more interest amongst young people. And there's also more information now. When you hear stories of me having to come all the way to Nairobi to get information on training and all that, nowadays there's a lot more information about training, about where you can get scholarships, opportunities in ADR, how to have a career in ADR. So I find that now there's more information and more information sharing, such that even within the ICCF network, you find that we always have events, and in every event, you always meet people from different nationalities, different backgrounds, and you get more information. another thing I'll say that apart, I think the younger generation, and by younger, I'm referring to say even 40 and below. And I find that there's a stronger community emerging specifically out of Africa, where me now seated in Nairobi, I know Stanley, I know Fumi, I know you. I kind of feel that in the next 5 years, when you want to ask for expertise on ADR in any country, anyone right now between the age of 25 to 40, you will get people, and it's a community like Stanley has connections in Ethiopia, in Sudan, wherever it could be, as compared to back then. I'd say the people ahead of us, you'd find the one lone ranger. Now I think there's a stronger community emerging of young African practitioners, either as sole arbitrators or mediators, or even as very strong counsel, because I agree with Stanley, you can't underestimate the power of counsel in arbitration. So I'd say that's what I've observed so far.
Thank you so much, Mercy. For me, okay, I am currently the program coordinator of the ICMC Young Mediators Forum. And when I'm speaking with young practitioners or newly certified practitioners, that means those are older but just coming into the field. A lot of them have complained that they've not really been given the opportunity to practice, because when they speak with these older people that have been longer in the field, they always tell them, please try to get more experience in the field before you try to practice. And the usual counter to this is, how am I supposed to get experience in the field if you do not give me the opportunity to practice? Now, you have risen to the top of one of the most prominent ADR institutions in Nigeria. So what would you say is the best way to break into the ADR field as a young practitioner?
So I mean, it's the question of what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I mean, so you have it all the time. You know, people say you don't have experience, so you can't get appointment. But how do I get appointments if I'm never given the opportunity? But you know what I'm going to say, I'm sure everybody has heard it before, but it can't be any more true, which is you need to seek out opportunities to offer your services for little or nothing. You just need to make yourself, so just if that's space where people who have experience would not consider worth their time, right, is the space that you want to occupy if you're trying to get into the game. And there's just, if you've heard it before, it's worth hearing again. And if you've never heard it before, that's the thing to do. You know, just plug into those opportunities. And you may say it may be taking your time if you don't have a full-time job or anything like that, you know, but it's the way to go, because at the end of the day, you then want to, if someone says to you tomorrow, just like Messi say now, you know, you have networks, you're joining associations and stuff, and then someone messages someone and she calls Stanley and like, oh, Stanley, you know, I was just speaking to my clients, a young company, and they're looking for an arbitrator. Send me your CV, let me send it to them. If Stanley has a list of 6 arbitrations that he's participated in or mediations, who's going to ask whether he was paid or not? Who's even going to ask what the value of the sum in dispute is? They're just going to be looking at maybe the subject matter, the parties. So, you know, you just need to build your caseload. You need to show that you've participated. And I would say the easiest way is to plug into that gap where experienced practitioners would not consider what they're worth because it's too cheap, it's too that. And then a lot of institutions have those opportunities. LASIAC, for instance, you know, every year we have what we call mediation clinic, where we engage young practitioners, and most of these things we actually keep them open for younger practitioners, you know, not necessarily just under 40, but younger practitioners, where you provide mediation services. And we even actually pay, but maybe nothing as commercial as what the mediators would want, but it adds to your caseload. You know, you would say that, oh, yes, you know, you've done this. Now we have a KDRI scheme, which is a scheme that supports businesses that have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic to help them access justice at, you know, a cheaper amount. So arbitration is cheaper, mediation is cheaper. Therefore, even the service providers, the arbitrators, the mediators pledge to provide their services at a significantly lower amount. Even the institution also, we provide administrative services cheaper. we encourage young practitioners to seek out those opportunities and, enlist, say, oh, I'm available for an appointment under the KDRI scheme. If it was LASIAC, for instance, I'm available for appointment under your annual free mediation clinic, things like that. You really need to seek those opportunities out. The other thing that I know really helps is relationships, and not just horizontal ones like we would have on a network, but also, the vertical ones, which is the mentorships. We need to have strong relationships with senior practitioners. It really helps, when you have, and they may not even necessarily be your mentors, we don't really even need titles like that, but just build relationships with more experienced practitioners that they know you, a lot of, I may have been on the forum with Mercy and Stanley before, but this is, I don't know, we probably have, but at least I'm definitely putting a voice to the name and all that today. And this is, how you build relationships, but it's really important that you meet, and then you sort of invest in the relationship with experienced practitioners, because they get these opportunities. And sometimes they get it and it's like, oh, I'm not available, or they realize that, okay, there's Stanley, I know he's a very, very bright guy. Okay, I'll just get you somebody else's name. This happens all the time, but if those people don't know you, because the thing about ADR is there is no board, there is no, now we have, what's it called now? What was it that was launched? Mercy, I think you were part of it,
Which one?
Catherine Rogers, the Catherine Rogers.
Arbitrator intelligence.
Arbitrator intelligence. Now, that kind of helps these days. When that really becomes standard, it would help in appointment. But the point I'm trying to make is that for the most part, it's very subjective. It's the user who decides, oh, I want this person. And that user, there's no law that prevents the user from going to the same person every time, 100 times. But if the person that you go to maybe Mrs. Fomi Roberts, the 50th time, and she says, oh, sorry, Mr. Smith and Co., I'll just recommend somebody else. He's really, really good. His name is Stanley, or she's really, really good. Her name is Mercy, because you've kept that relationship with people who are more exposed to potential users. So, these are the two things I'll say. Seek out opportunities with institutions where you can have your services available for little or nothing, and don't worry about it for now. And then secondly, really maintain relationships, not just that one, this is my mentor, but relationships. There are a lot of them. We see their names everywhere with more experienced, exposed practitioners that we know are closer to potential users, who can then advertise or expose us to them, when the opportunity comes along.
Thank you very much.
I think those are two things I would say.
Thank you very much, Femi. Now, we're all certified dispute resolution practitioners one way or another, and promoting peace in our homes, in our places of work, in our places of worship, and the entire community. It's all well and good. It's a good ambition, it's a good mandate. And we all want to do our part to promote peaceful coexistence. However, I am fairly certain, I wouldn't say entirely sure, but fairly certain that the general question on everyone's mind, or at least most people attending this session, is we have done the trainings, we have obtained the certifications. How do we make money in ADR? Just a little, not so much. So Mercy, please, can you tell us, just give us a little advice how to make, even just a little money, not so much. How do we make a little money in ADR? Just a little.
Okay, since you want small money, I'll give you small advice. Yeah, anyway, I know this is going to be really irritating for people because you've had this thing before, but I promise you it's the truth. First of all, and this is something I just have to emphasize, me, I've come to Nigeria, and I find I get this question more in Nigeria than I get it here. And the question is, how do I get an appointment? How do I get work? How do I get appointment? I know it will come out badly, but sometimes in this ADR journey, my first point is this: exercise patience. Don't think that because now, even if you finish all your training, say even with a Chartered Institute or ICMC, and you become now you finish the top level certification, that briefs will just now start falling in your hand. because there's a friend of mine, he's Nigerian also, he asked the same question, I think 2 weeks ago. When you finished law school and you were called to the bar, did you suddenly go and start handling the president's petitions at the Supreme Court? That now all the big, even Dangote is your client. You know, business does not fall in your hands just because you're trained and certified. Everything requires your patience. And another thing is that you have to realize that practice in ADR is a lifetime thing. You don't just practice it and then now after 10 years you stop. It's something that you can practice until you lose your mind or you become really too old. So I just try to say have some patience. Now, however, since we are talking about chopping money, my advice would be this: first of all, treat your ADR practice like any other business. Do your research and have a strategy. By doing your research, you have to know which is my strong point. Am I stronger in arbitration? Am I stronger in mediation? Realistically, which one can I make more money from? For instance, in my case, I was like 24 when I was almost finishing my arbitration courses, but there was no one in Kenya who was going to appoint a 25-year-old to sit as sole arbitrator. So I switched quickly to mediation because the courts in Kenya will appoint a young mediator in what is now the equivalent of the Lagos multi-door courthouse. So I went there and I practiced there until I got to around 28. So I did mediation. Then now when I started becoming a bit older, I started combining both arbitration and mediation. So you must do your research and know which one has a practical chance of getting you money. It doesn't mean you abandon the other, but as you're building skill set, you can be chopping small monies. Because that time we were being paid $200 for the whole mediation, $3,000, that's $30. Just small money, really negligible, but it also helped in building my CV because I still did a lot of mediations. Another thing, you must learn how to create opportunities. In fact, this is my main point. You must learn how to create opportunities where you are. What does this mean? What even Chief Dima has said in terms of peace and community and all that. As a trained mediator, there's something called community mediation in your church, in your village, everywhere you are. Me, when I started mediation, now I can say this. No one will ask me. I'd actually tell my mother to collect a group of women back in the village. And they buy me a small lunch for me to teach them about how to use alternative dispute resolution in their homes, in their community. You know, you have to create opportunities where you are. Even churches nowadays, I don't know about Nigerian churches, but I think they're even probably more advanced than Kenyan churches. Churches invite professionals to come and discuss ADR. You just go and tell your pastor, as a youth, can I do something pro bono? You see, sometimes when you do something for free, now they're paying opportunity. People are like, when they think about that case they have and they want a mediator or arbitrator, they think of, what about that young girl or young man who gave us that ADR talk? So you have to create opportunities where you are. When advising clients, and this is something I was even telling my friends the other day, if now me, Stanley, Fumi, Chimdima, and the 5 of you in the chat, we can start inserting ADR clauses in our contracts. It also means when I appoint, since I can't appoint myself, I'll appoint someone in my circle. And by extension, so long as I'm qualified, they'll also consider me when they're appointing me, when there's a dispute resolution clause. Another thing, if you work for a firm, and I don't know whether Stanley will touch on this, but if you work for a firm or an organization, you have to show value addition. That is another way you can make money through ADR. If your firm can see the advantage of using alternative dispute resolution, they'll even first of all want to train you, and they'll also put you in the front seat in terms of arbitration. But then how do you show value addition? You need to start thinking around looking for clients, even if you're an associate. If you can't get clients nonetheless, you have to see, how do my bosses think about me in a way that they can help me push this agenda? Because your bosses can't be paying for you courses and things if they don't see the return on investment. So you just have to stay smart. I hope those few words have helped you. But the only thing I'll say, money is good and it's the end game sometimes, but let it not be so much your end game. Be smart, but also be patient. Yeah, that's all I can say.
Thank you very much, Mercy. So please, just a reminder, if you have any questions for any of our speakers, please just put down the Q&A section. Then once the time comes, we'll try to take as many as we can. So thank you very much, Mercy. So Fumi, please, how do we make some money in ADR?
Well, I mean, I just completely agree with everything Mercy has said, to be honest. I mean, she's just spot on. There isn't really anything else to add. But I'll just say this, which is kind of, it goes back a bit. The focus shouldn't be so much on these certifications, you know. I don't know what it's like in Nairobi, but in Nigeria, the easiest thing to do is write an exam. I mean, once you can find money to pay, to read for that exam is not so hard. We all just write this exam. So you would find chartered, well, maybe not a chartered arbitrator, but you certainly find fellows of chartered institute arbitration that have no experience, really don't even know much about arbitration, because they just write exams. You know, it's easy. The exam is whatever, £500. That's not a problem. They get the money and then they pay. So for me, I agree with everything Mercy has said, but then I just want to say to everyone here that your focus shouldn't be so much on these certifications. It's good, but there are many people who have thriving practice and are not even on that certification journey at all. I remember when I was doing my fellowship exams, and it took me a long time to do the fellowship exam, because after this is of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, after my membership, I just said, you know what, for me, try and make money from this arbitration, stop running after certification. So I just paused and I didn't bother. For almost, I guess, 10 years, I just didn't bother. And a lot of people, I remember speaking one time to a very senior member of the institute in Nigeria, you know, one of our very, very, very senior members, and he was like, for me, you're not a fellow. And I was like, no, how can you not be a fellow? No, you have to do it. Okay, all right. So then at that point, I decided I'll go ahead and do it. And the first exam I was doing, so when I was preparing for it, I called a few friends, like, you know, for example, some of the people I called who I consider as
Hello, Fumi, are you there? Okay, I think Fumi is having a little tap.
So it's, you know, this yeah, the certification thing is good, but where you place it, let's put a lot of energy in, you know, getting experience in networking, you know, all the things that Mercy has said, creating opportunities where you serve, you know, if you're in a law firm, just these things she has said. Don't spend too much energy on certifications. You could do the certifications. I am doing them, so I'm not preaching against them. I am, and we all should. But you know, you don't finish the certification and say, oh, I'm now with this and where are my appointments? It doesn't work that way. You know, I just want to get everyone to appreciate that it's not just about certifications. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fumi. So, I mean, there's the peace mandate for dispute resolution practitioners, but there's still the business aspect to dispute resolution. The theme for our conference this year is transnational commercial mediation. So there's still a bit of business in dispute resolution. So Stanley, what would be your advice to young practitioners looking to tap into the business aspect of ADR, just to make a little money?
Actually, Mercy's advice and Fumi's advice are very useful to me, because I'm also looking to make money. But I mean, I'm not sure I'm going to say anything different from what they have already said. I'm just going to have to emphasize the importance of patience. So everything I'm about to say, I'm also saying to myself every day I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm asking myself, and why haven't you made money? So you need fortitude and you need the patience. And from what I understand, all you need is just one break. And I think it's very important to be prepared well enough, if possible, to be over-prepared for that one break. And from experience, I think there are two main things a young practitioner needs to make that money and to succeed generally. I think the first thing is the skill and the craft, right? Being able to actually do the job. And secondly is the connection and the clients, right? So every single time you are being patient. Every single time you are working tirelessly towards making money and being up there, you need to ask yourself at all times whether the steps you are taking are helping you to acquire or to improve your skills and crafts, or to help you to get more clients and be out there. Regarding craft, it's quite straightforward, and by craft, what I mean are first practical skills. You need substantive knowledge of the area, the industry you are working in. If you're a lawyer, you need the substantive knowledge of the relevant legal provisions, the relevant principles applicable, and all whatnot. But you also need soft skills as well, in addition to the practical skills, right? You need to be able to have very good listening skills. You need to be able to think critically. You need to have very good written and oral communication skills. Obviously, you need a good negotiation skill, and you also need to be a very good decision maker. All these things don't come immediately you're ready to make the money, right? It takes time to build both the practical skills and soft skills. And one thing I have found to be very, very interesting is that gaining experience as counsel helps, right? Because apart from the fact that that helps you in building your practical knowledge, apart from the fact that that helps you in making mistakes and being corrected and doing as much as you can, not to make the same mistakes twice, it also helps give you background experience in the area that you are going to focus on, or in the kind of disputes that you are going to settle or help resolve tomorrow. So apart from getting experience as a young counsel, reading relevant materials online, like Mercy mentioned and like Fumi mentioned, courses are great, certifications are great, but an even cheaper one is actually just going online and reading relevant materials, because there's so much material out there that can help you to stay up to date with recent developments in ADR more generally. Subscribing to relevant blogs, newsletters, Clue Arbitration is an example where you receive a free arbitration post every day without having to pay. And it helps you to keep tab with what is going on around the world. And obviously, the essential certifications and courses are good. They help your profile that you have done so. But they also help you with networking as well, because the people you meet during the courses or the certifications may end up being people that will help you tomorrow and suggest your name to appropriate bodies or clients. But then for building your client base or improving your visibility, or really to be able to do this, you need to network. If you're shy, then you have to work on that, because the truth is that you can't make that money without being out there, without being bold. Sometimes I'm over careful with things I do in public, but I've come to realize that it's actually okay to make mistakes, right? And then learn from those mistakes, as long as those mistakes are not fatal. But in conclusion, I know that money is very important, but it's slightly easier if you're actually doing this because you are passionate about it. That helps you to be patient. That helps you to put in 101 efforts if you are truly passionate about it. And if you are truly passionate about it, you would also be more confident that money will come as you continue to grow. But if you're not truly passionate about it, chances are high that down the line you will get impatient and you may want to try something else and move on. So these are my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you, Sally. So at this point, I want to look through, see if we have any questions that we can take. So Fumi, I know you mentioned that LASIAC has some schemes for young practitioners. And Mercy, I know you belong to a lot of associations and organizations for young practitioners. So Mercy, some people are asking that how do they become a part of these schemes for young practitioners? How do they join these associations?
Okay. Before this conversation ends, I'll try and copy paste as much as I can on the chat. The advantage of young member groups is that they are free to join. But then now there are so many. If I think off the top of my head, there are about 25 leading ones. So you have to decide what is your interest. And there's no need of joining 25 and you'll only be active in one. Pick 3 that you know you can die with, you know. Like off the top of my head, I can recommend Association of Young Arbitrators, SIAB, Young Members Group. Okay, SIAB, you have to be a member of SIAB, but you can join as a student member. These membership groups, in short, are free. And some of them now eventually end up having, what can I say, mentorship schemes. But since that thing you've said about mentorship, and I want to really emphasize on what Fumi said earlier. And this actually, this is the first time I'm saying this here because sometimes I have thoughts that I have to release during webinars. Sometimes, do you know mentorship is overrated? You can be sitting in your house not doing your own work because you're still writing to Masiokiro in Nairobi to mentor you. Do you understand? Maybe I have not seen the email, maybe I've ignored the email, maybe I'm busy. Don't over-rely too much on mentorship that you lose faith in yourself. So even when you join these young members groups, even your own peers, just having conversations with them, that is actually something that will probably end up being more useful than waiting for that established practitioner to guide you. And I can speak from my own experience. When I look back, the things that I learned, self-taught, the things I went out of my way to teach myself or learn from joining these groups, attending conferences, you're even lucky nowadays, there are webinars. Those are the things that are carrying me now, as compared to those days you sit and wait for Mrs. I don't know who and Masiokiro and Stanley to have a 5-minute session for you. Believe in yourself and look for information. So these young members groups are there. I'll try and copy paste as many as I can here, so that you join and just get into webinars, conversations. You will get the drift. At first, I know it will look very overwhelming because the avalanche of information sometimes is really crazy. You're wondering, oh my God, how did they know all these things? I don't know, where do I start? But over time, things will be rolling out off your tongue. Even me, 5 years ago, I was in shock. But now you just get to the program. So don't underestimate yourself. Join these groups and continue. As Stanley said, just continue. Don't sit and wait for a mentor to come and pick you from the house. What if they don't come? Is that the end of your career? You know? So yeah, I stop there for now.
Thank you, Mercy. So Fumi, I know you mentioned LASIAC has a mediation clinic and some other schemes. So how can young practitioners tap into these opportunities that you've so generously provided at LASIAC? Sorry, Fumi, you're muted.
Apologies. So I mentioned 2 programs that we currently provide that I think young practitioners can take advantage of. One is the KDRI scheme, and you just get on the LASIAC website, lasiac.org, www.lasiac.org, and there's a tab KDRI. You click on that icon, and you would see information about KDRI and how one can get listed as a KDRI practitioner in terms of offering your services as a mediator or an arbitration under the scheme. The other thing is our annual mediation clinic. For that one, we usually make an announcement, about 3 to 4 weeks before the time. It's something we usually do the first quarter of the year. So, I mean, everyone should just sort of watch the space, get acquainted with LASIAC, what it is that we do, but we usually advertise when the scheme is coming up, and we ask people to indicate if they are interested in working with us to provide free mediation for small businesses. So that's it. And then, of course, if you have any further questions on these things, you can contact me directly. What else did I want to say? To Mercy's point on mentors, I'd say that I agree with her. I personally have a problem with, when you say somebody's my mentor, which is why I said earlier, it's just keeping relationships, and sort of growing. It's very important. In fact, this arbitration practice is really just about networking, and we keep as many relationships as we can, both both amongst our contemporaries and then with our seniors. But it's very important. People just have to sort of know who you are, and they can only do that if you have relationships with people and you put yourself out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Fumi. So Stanley, some people are asking if I'm a certified mediator, do I have to get certification in arbitration to practice arbitration? Or if I'm a certified arbitrator, do I need to get certification in mediation to practice mediation? Or if I don't have any certifications at all, must I get certified before I can practice either arbitration or mediation?
From my limited experience, I think it depends on the jurisdiction. Okay. Certain jurisdictions would require that before you can practice as a maybe even a court-appointed mediator or so on, that you would need to be certified. The same thing with an arbitrator. But for most places, I think you don't necessarily need that. All you need is the experience. And I think that those certifications help you to market yourself better. They are more strategic than they are super relevant. I'm not saying that they are not very relevant. You can pick up some substantive knowledge and even practical knowledge from being a part of them. But overall, my answer is going to be that it depends on the relevant jurisdiction. Some jurisdictions I know would require that before you can, serve as a mediator, a commercial mediator especially, you have to be certified in that area or in that jurisdiction or in that field. The same with arbitration. But the bulk of the times I've practiced arbitration, I've come to realize that even the jurisdiction you are qualified does not matter so much. I know some people that practice arbitration, for example, in the UAE, that are qualified in New York, right? They are not even qualified in the UAE. So it really depends on your jurisdiction. In Nigeria, for example, before you can practice arbitration, you obviously have to be a lawyer. So in the end, I think it falls down to the particular jurisdiction the person is going to practice in and find out what the relevant requirements are for that jurisdiction.
Thank you very much, Stanley. So I know some people are a bit confused on the age range of these young membership forums and how do you participate if you're not in Nigeria or that particular country. So just say that the age limits usually vary. Icmc is 35, Association of Young Arbitrators is 40, I believe CIAB is 40 as well. But if you're older than that, nobody's going to forbid you from joining. I mean, if you're not in Nigeria, you're not in Kenya, most of these programs are being offered online. For instance, the Young Mediators Forum breakfast meeting is fully online. So most of these programs are offered online. So regardless of where you are, you can join in. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I know some people are also asking how they can get in touch with Stanley, how they can get in touch with Mercy, how they can get in touch with Fumi. So one thing I want to say is our speakers today, they're very nice people. They're very nice people. And they're all very active on LinkedIn. So if you'd like to reach out to them, please just send them a message on LinkedIn. They're very accessible, they respond quickly, and they're very nice. I would say they're very nice. So on all their names, Fumi Yai is Fumi Yai on LinkedIn, Mercy Okiro is Mercy Okiro on LinkedIn, then Stanley Yu, Weke Eze is Stanley Yu, Weke Eze on LinkedIn. So if you'd like to speak with them, please just send them a message on LinkedIn and they will respond as best as they can. So before we let you go, Stanley, Mercy, Fumi, before we let you go today, I just ask you just one final question. So earlier this year, you three were shortlisted by the Association of Young Arbitrators as Africa's 50 most promising arbitration practitioners for 2020. That's in the entire Africa. You're one of the 50 most promising arbitration practitioners. And this is extremely impressive. And we applaud you. I applaud you on reaching such great heights in your careers, so early on. So what would be your advice to young ADR practitioners going forward? Those that actually want to practice, those that want to distinguish themselves in the field. Stanley, what would be your advice to young ADR practitioners going forward?
Thank you. That's quite broad. but I think we have pretty much touched on them at different stages in this breakfast meeting. But just to recap, there are three main important items off the top of my head that I will talk about. The first is actually having integrity, right? It may sound very simplistic, but a lot of times when we are desperate for money, and desperate to make it, quote and unquote, sometimes we let go of our morals and integrity. I think being a person of integrity helps. You may lose, that £500,000 now because you didn't do what you are not supposed to do, but your good name would most likely bear fruits in the future. And I think that also goes down to the patience points that we talked about a few minutes earlier. The second thing is having the relevant skill sets. Obviously practical knowledge and substantive knowledge and the relevant soft skill sets. Those are very important. And lastly is being ready. Being ready to embrace that opportunity. I had mentioned earlier that really all we are waiting for, including myself, is the big break. And you want to be prepared and you need to be ready when that big break comes. But in summary, in order to achieve these three main items that I've just talked about, I'll talk about mentorship. I think mentorship is one of the ways. It's not the only way. It's one of the ways. And I think mentorship can actually be formal and informal, right? There are different associations, arbitration associations that offer formal mentorship programs, like the Young ICCA group, like the Association of Young Arbitrators group, and so on and so forth. Those are formal ones, but there are also informal ones. My partner in my office is my very good mentor. I have so many other informal mentors, but again, it depends on the tag you want to give to it. You may want to call them your friends, and so on and so forth, but they can actually be formal and informal as well. The second one is networking, right? Networking is so key. I know that people talk about it a lot, that is beginning to lose its value, but it's actually really, really important in this field. And again, from my limited knowledge, there are various ways you can improve your networking skills and get to increase your client base. It is by attending conferences and joining professional institutions. I mean, I don't know that they do so much for you, like that they are going to spoon feed you. But in my experience, I know that they serve as a meeting point where you get to meet people, right? At these conferences, at these professional institutions, various seminars. And it's good that most of them are now online. So it's actually not a bad idea. You don't have to spend so much money now to do that, to have to travel to Kenya or to Rwanda or to South Africa for something. You can actually just do it online, and then send a very kind and professional email to one of the panelists or to one of the attendees after. And that's how you grow your client base. Professional exams and courses that have been talked about, those are good. And even maybe undertaking a specialized LLM in dispute resolution is also good. Again, that increases your substantive and practical knowledge, but expands your pool of and gives you the opportunity to network and increase your client base. And maybe the last point I would make is internship programs as well. Internship programs at law firms, they may even be foreign law firms or arbitral institutions or mediation centers are helpful. They may be paid or they may be unpaid, but really that also brings us to being patient and hoping and knowing that at some point the big break will come. So internships at law firms and arbitral institutions and mediation centers are very, very essential. So to wrap up, like I mentioned, I believe that these items, would help young mediators or arbitrators to become better, but it's very important not to rush it. It's rather important to be better prepared because, like I said, is all you need is just that one break. And if you have that one break, a very good first impression is going to be very, very essential. It's going to even be, some people will describe it as a make or break situation. So when you get that first opportunity, you want to put out your best foot, you know, and show your expertise, your ability to continuously develop, and your ability to learn and be an expert, you know. And as time goes on, more opportunities will come. So it's important to be prepared and to be patient. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stanley. Thank you so much. Mercy, please, what would be your advice to young ADR practitioners going forward, those that actually want to practice and actually want to make a name for themselves? What would be your advice going forward?
Okay, I think we are more or less in the same groove. So I'll try and not overemphasize things that Stanley has already said. But I'll just say quickly, one, you have to want it for you to get it. You can't be doing half here, half there. And one thing I probably would have wanted to say around my experience with young member groups is that people are now more qualified and there's competition. This is not the 1990s where there are only 2 people who could do arbitration. Right now we have Stanley with 2 master's degrees. You can hear it's Harvard and Cambridge, not, I don't know where in the village and where in the village. And also he's doing CIAB courses. There is Fumi, there is who. Competition is hot now. So you have to hone your skills. This is 2020. People are overqualified. People have, and you see, you're not competing with that your friend now that you're with in the webinar. You're competing with a person in Australia. Arbitration ADR, if you want to make it, you have to hit international. So you have to get your ducks in a row in terms of experience. You have to know your stuff. So you have to hone your skills. Honing your skills means you have to want it. You have to want this business. Personally, sometimes I'm like, oh God, what's this I beg? Because I'm listening to webinars, podcasts, reading. Like me, my leisure reading, half of it is arbitration. Because that person in London is next to that arbitration center. As you can hear, Stanley went to all these events in London when he was there. You know you cannot go to London now and you're just sitting. You have to invest in your skill set. In fact, the amount of money, and I still say this, the amount of money I spent on conferences, I can't even tell people anymore because they'll think I'm crazy. But that's the only option I had since I could not leave the continent to go and study there. You have to invest in your skill. You have to hone your skill. There is no other way because competition is hot. And that's why you must want it. If you're going to get halfway, as Stanley said, and then you get tired, don't start it because you can get very tired along the way. 2, you have to be available for opportunities. You have to position yourself for opportunities. And when opportunities come, take them. And I think my motto, not I think, I know, my motto in 2018 was say yes. And I said yes. I said yes to conferences. I said yes to speaking opportunities. I said yes to everything. And that is how I ended up expanding my network. It took a lot of time. It took a lot of energy. And my schedule was just, I was like, I beg, I'm going to die. But I did not die. You see, you will not die. So you have to say yes. And saying yes means what? You get exposure. Those days you'd get opportunities to organize things. They're all pro bono, and these are physical conferences. You are just running around. Nowadays, I actually get paid to speak in conferences, to attend events, to do research for people. And how did I meet these people? Because when they wanted to do what in Kenya we say kazi ya mkono, the dirty work, the one who carries the plates after the party is over, I volunteered my services. And that is how I ended up learning. And now that is how I can command money because I can say I put in 500 hours in ABCD. Also, don't feel afraid of asking for help. Don't be ashamed because you don't know things. If you don't know things, you don't know things. Ask your friends, ask your peers. Even me, some of these questions that are being asked, for me, I can answer them very easily. But there was a day I didn't know the answer. I also had to find out the answer. So don't be afraid of asking people, even foreigners on LinkedIn. Instead of going to LinkedIn to just ask those questions, ask 2 people. People are not so bad. One will answer you. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Another thing, also be open-minded. Don't restrict yourself also to Nigeria only, because how is me who's a Kenyan and I know Ibado? When did I know Ibado? Don't restrict yourself that now me, I'm only going to practice in Nigeria. Maybe your opportunities in Kigali or South Africa, Cape Town, Egypt. Expose yourself even outside the continent. Read things about what's happening there, and maybe opportunities lies there. The last thing I'll say is this. We as young practitioners, as I said, we really need to invest in our skill set. That means you have to read, think about your qualifications and experience. But at the end of the day, if you are not known for the work that you do, no one will give you work. Because someone like me, you don't know how I ended up on this panel and I'm in Nairobi. Someone, of course, called me because they know me from somewhere. I'm not the only mediator in Kenya. There are so many. In fact, I'm one of the youngest ones. There are so many. We are 600. How come I'm the only one who's called for this panel? Because they know me. So hone your skill set and ensure you are known. Because if you are not known, who will call you for things, you know? No one is going to call you. Actually, I remember just one last thing. And this is a mistake I probably made, but now I know better, so I can correct it. Because not everything has been fun in this journey. I would tell you, if you have the option of just starting this ADR practice being open, the way Stanley said, open, litigation, ADR, start that way. Me, I left litigation early, like 1 year post-call to the band, I specialized. Now is when I'm starting to do litigation again. And let me tell you, it's not easy. So don't restrict yourself so early when you're starting out. Because increasingly, you will find if a client wants to instruct someone, they would prefer to instruct Stanley who understands both sides of the divide as compared to someone who's never litigated, you know. So if you can try and learn a bit of everything at the beginning, with time, you will see where your interest lies and basically where you're best suited for. I hope that advice has helped everyone or someone or a few people. Thank you so much for inviting me to this panel. It was a great panel and I hope to see some of you soon and wish you a good day.
Thank you so much, Mercy. Fumi, please, what will be your advice to young ADR practitioners going forward?
Well, I mean, clearly there isn't really much more to say. It's all been said. It's really all been said. I'll just wrap up. I mean, and this has been said already, but I'll just emphasize on two things that have already been said. Being that I agree with everything. One is just finding a platform. I think it was Mercy who said that. I'm not sure whether I was now, but she said you don't have to be involved in all the young member groups. You can get 3 and then focus. Find a platform or 2 and use that to promote yourself. Find a platform and use that to promote yourself. I actually got that advice. I remember as a young practitioner at the time, I was living in Ghana, and it was Rukia. For some of you who know Rukia Baruti, and this was maybe 13 years ago or something, and then she came with the LCI had a conference in Accra, and I was looking at Rukia thinking, well, I mean, she looks very young, but I was thinking, who's this young girl coming? And she was speaking and all that. And I walked up to her, I was like, how did you even get a speaking opportunity here, you know? And I remember her saying that to me. She said, just find a platform and use that platform to promote yourself. And then, of course, for those of you who know Rukia, she's gone on to do a lot of, grand things. So that's one. The second thing I would say is when you attend these conferences that Miss is talking about, project yourself. Don't just say I attended and I was there. I was at this one and I was at this one. Oh, were you there? Oh, I saw you. Especially now that it's webinars and stuff. You just say, oh, I saw you, your name on the list. No. And then if it's physical, you must, I mean, it's just as simple as this. Let it be clear that you were there. Ask a question, contribute to something, stand up, raise up your hand, be seen, there are people whose names, even before, I mean, I said that at the beginning, Mercy and Stanley, I'm not even sure if I've seen, but you already know their names. I already know that there's a Mercy in Nairobi somewhere. I mean, there are things I'm discussing with my person. I say, oh, let's reach out to this girl just because she's taking her time to make herself relevant. She's talking about Lagos and Ibadan. She even appreciates that. When you get to these places, stand up, contribute to the discussion. You must know what it is you want to contribute. Don't spend 2 hours sitting down, if it's physical, I mean, and then leave and just say, yes, it was good and take pictures. No, get up, ask a question, make a contribution. And then the other thing I would say is, if you're good writing, and we should actually try to write, because as with lawyers, brief writing is actually, well, we're not even all lawyers, and I must add that arbitration ADR is not a practice for just lawyers. So for anyone who isn't a lawyer out there, you are still in the right place. But being able to write well is a skill that we should all have. So you could write articles, no matter how small, whatever it is that comes up in your area, whether it's the new ADR law, whatever. There are so many things that one can write about. You've talked about peace, conflict resolution in communities. You can write about something, write it, and then you will find publications that will be happy to publish it. You might start off as doing something in maybe just a university journal, but it's published, isn't it? And then you will have that on your CV that, oh, you published this article. Then after it will be something else. So, if we just 3 things I'll add. 1, find a platform, 1 or 2, and use that platform to promote yourself. When I was young, I don't know why I'm on this platform now. When Young Eco started, this was many years ago, and I remember getting an email saying, oh, that they wanted a few of us to head the Africa desk of Young Eco. I didn't even know how they even knew I existed to begin to even reach me. And it's not even like now that, there's a lot going on online, and everyone is, very well promoted online. But it was because, I would at least try to attend these conferences, join whatever groups that I think, especially when I see it's a young group and I see there's an Africa focus, I just try to attend. So, find a platform, promote yourself. When you attend these conferences, webinars, please be active. Just don't sit down and say that you attended. If you write, try and write and get published. These things will help, in addition to all the other things that Stanley and Mercy have said today. And, God helping us all, we will, grow in our career.
Thank you, Fumi. So our dear attendees, we have been lucky enough to hear from some of the most experienced and most successful young ADR practitioners in Africa. Now, the dispute resolution community in Nigeria, in Africa, all over the world is really large. And I understand that it can be a bit scary for young practitioners who are just coming into the field to find opportunities to gain sufficient experience and make a name for themselves, as Stanley, Mercy, and Fumi have done. Well, of course, while making a little money in the process. So I'm extremely grateful to Stanley, I'm extremely grateful to Mercy, I'm very grateful to Fumi for making out the time to share their experiences with us and also give us some much needed advice that will help us grow in our professional endeavors and also in our personal lives. So thank you so much. And I know we can't see you, but please join me in appreciating Mercy, Fumi, and Stanley. They've been amazing today. And also our attendees, thank you so much for investing in yourself, for taking out the time to also listen to our wonderful speakers, be able to enrich yourselves and continue to improve yourself in your practice. So this brings our session to a close today. So thank you so much, everyone. And I also welcome you to attend the African Mediation Conference of Icmc, which is beginning by 10 a.m. West Africa time. We are partnering with over 20 organizations in Africa, including LASIAC, to deliver this conference. And we have so many wonderful speakers lined up. We have Chief Bayojo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. We have Fumi Roberts, who is also in Nigeria. We have Stephen Richman in America, Colin Rule, also in America, Justice Aloch, who Mercy actually put me in contact with in Kenya. We have James Mangere, who's also in Kenya. We have Madeleine Kime from Tanzania. We have Fidel Masengo from Kigali. We also have Samir Shah from India. So we have so many people from all over the world who are going to offer different perspectives into transnational commercial mediation, leveraging options and intersections in Africa. So please continue to look out for the programs of ICMC Young Mediators Forum our speakers today have really kick-started our programs, and we look forward to more wonderful programs. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Stanley. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you, Fumi. Please have a wonderful day, a wonderful afternoon, a wonderful night. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.